Hey there, you are listening to the In Kinship Podcast, a podcast for makers who crave a joy filled, vibrant, lit up life on their own terms. And I'm your host, Tina Vandenberg. Thanks for being here. Welcome to my solo episode. This episode is being recorded in September of 2024, and I am struck with September energy. I bet you know what I mean by that. Like that back to school, reconnecting to our routines, second new year of the year kind of energy. I always think of September as a time to like brush myself off after an exciting summer. Um, and that could be exciting in so many ways, right? Like I know like for me, summer is always full of like, I want to get all these projects done. I also want to try to get to the beach as much as I can. I want to have all the adventures. I want to do all the camping. I want to go all the places. And my rhythm and routine get a little hijacked. I'll bet you it's the same for you. It's a little bit feral, if you will. And fall feels like coming back into rhythm, coming back into routine, and dusting off. And it is something that I highly enjoy. Plus, I love fall. Like, I am not a hot weather girl. I know some of you are going to be appalled to hear that. Although, if you know me, you know that that's true already. I'm not a hot weather girl. So, summer, while I adore it for so many reasons, isn't my favorite temperature. I really love the fall and I love winter and I love spring. Either way, I'm really an equal opportunity season lover. But I would rather be cold and layered up and really cute than hot and unable to take off my skin because I'm down to that. So that's a side note. Let's go back to September. Early September, especially, I get this craving to like reassess my life and see what's happening and re-look at my schedules and figure out what's going to work for me and what's not. And while I'm a little bit out of that now here at, the second half of September, I wanted to share with you my process. I wanted to share with you a new workbook that I put out. It's very similar, but updated. It's not that similar. I mean, it's got some similar aspects, but I really updated it and added a lot of my personal rituals, I guess, into it. You are wondering right now, I'm sure, like, could she maybe say what this thing is that she's already done that now she's updated? Does it happen to you too? Anyway, I digress. So I have updated the Vibrant Year workbook that I put out, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now. And I updated it to be timeless, first of all. And I updated it to be something that doesn't have to be at the new year. If you know and follow me, you know that like I love assessing the new year like mid-January. I don't like to jump on it right on January 1st. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm still in that fallow time that is the time after the holidays. I'm getting back into my rhythm, and it takes a couple weeks to be ready to sort of look ahead and reflect back and move on with that. So this is timeless. There's no timing based on it. And you could do it after a season, like say after summer, right? So I led this group the other day, which was so delightful. And they gave me some feedback on the workbook, which I absolutely adored. And let me just say this real quick. If you are trying to do something creative that you want to put out into the world, there's so much value in finding a group of like-minded humans whose opinion you value and who have similar goals to yours to help you work through the details of it. Because sometimes when you work by yourself, it can be very insular and it can be hard to know if your ideas are just out there or if they're valuable, right? And it can be easy to run along in one particular path. So a mastermind or a group of people who are like-minded who can help and support one another is so valuable. Like we need community in so many ways. And there are several communities that I want to foster again in my life after having had a really tumultuous, I don't know that I said that word right, but there you go. Several years. As you know, I divorced. I had an autoimmune thing, and I just kind of fell off the face of the earth, it felt like. But I am finding my footing, and I'd like to engage with certain groups in my life. And for me, that would be having time with a women's circle, a spiritual women's circle is important to me. So, whatever your spirituality is, I think it's so important to gather in community, whether that's a church or that's a gathering around the campfire on the full moon, whatever that might be. So, I want to re engage with that. I also am thoroughly enjoying having this group of like minded women. And this has just began for me last spring, and it's been a beautiful thing. And I also used to do something called maker swaps, where I would get together with makers and we would bring our handmade goods and put them all out on display. And there were rules to the gathering, like how many items you could bring and all of these things. And then we would do a lottery to decide who got to go up and pick the first item, and we would go through that until all the items were gone. And we also had a potluck, of course, because, who doesn't want a potluck? It was so much fun, and being somewhat unrooted for several years now, 3 of them even, I haven't done one in a long time, and so I look forward to maybe next spring reinstating that too. So there are certain things that I know help me feel grounded, to help me grow, and to assess what my thoughts are and decide, is that really what I want? Is it not? Because I think that's the value of community, is it helps to see where your rub is, like where you're bouncing up against somebody and you're not sure that that's them or you, and you get the opportunity then to inspect that and see, where are your boundaries? Where are they not? Are you where you want to be in life? Like there's just so much assessing that can happen, and support, obviously, that can happen in community, and wisdom that you would get from somebody that maybe you wouldn't have an opportunity to be part of in other ways. Anyway, digressing is definitely part of my MO. So I had a group and I taught this workbook to that group, and it was such a beautiful experience, and I'm so grateful for that. But it allowed me to fine tune a little bit more even what it is I'm offering, and I want to do some kind of a virtual workshop on it. So look for that coming up. Maybe I'll wait until January. I'm not sure. Well, we'll come together for 3 hours and have a ceremony around it, make it a ritual, and go through my workbook, which you can get right now if you want to. If you want to do it on your own, you can certainly get it. It's on the website, kinshiphandwork.com. So going through that workbook and updating it and creating it reminded me of all of the practices that I love to do when I am switching from one season to the other, or from one calendar to the next, or any time that you're ready to just kind of like reset your energy. And what I love about it is there's so much power in looking back over the time that you've just gone through and highlighting like the overall feeling that was there, highlighting what you learned, maybe highlighting who helped you or what helped you in that time period. And then I like to also list out the things and events that I did that are meaningful to me or hard, or, somehow they have stuck out in my mind, because it allows me to look back and say, you know what, January or July, whatever it is, that was really way too busy for me. Like, no wonder I felt so scattered, or whatever that feeling that you had was. Like, it allows you to sort of connect the dots and try to plan for the next time, right? Try to put boundaries around, all right, I'm only going to do 5 camping trips in a summer, not 10, or whatever your boundary might be. And I should say too, like, those boundaries, they're going to change from season to season and from year to year. Like, when I have a little child, my boundaries have to be tighter around what I do, because I'm already in a state of feeling too busy sometimes, right? And I want to slow those things down. When I would imagine, and certainly before I had a child, my time was different and how I spent it was different, and my tolerance for travel and activity was different as well. And so, like, part of the work, something like this kind of a workbook, is being able to assess what is feeling good to you right now and make changes on a seasonal basis. So then once you've reflected, then you start to dream about the future. And this is one of my favorite parts. Like, I adore envisioning what my future Tina might look like. And sometimes I just envision like a day in my life 6 months from now or a year from now. I don't generally go out much further than that, but typically I will paint as much detail in that picture as I can. And it's not to say that I want to have that purple plate that's in that vision, but it is to say that after I've completed the vision and I've journaled on it, and often I'll do a little writing exercise beside that as well, which is in the workbook. Then I will consider, how did I feel in that future moment? And that's what I'm striving for, because I understand that there are probably a million ways for me to get to that feeling. And yes, I had a vision that was really detailed. Like I had this in my hand and this was happening, and I lived in this house. And I think it's important to have those to give you something to hang on to as far as while the visioning is happening. But once you connect to the feeling that you want to feel, I think it's important to let go of all the details and trust. Trust that you understand where you want to feel, how you want to feel in the future, and that now you're going to make small choices on a day-to-day basis to help you to feel that way. And it will be amazing to see what that looks like in 6 months or a year when you have visioned that out. Like it may look physically very different, but we're shooting for that same feeling. So I absolutely adore that. And so then part of the workbook then continues on like, okay, you have these feelings that you want to feel. You have maybe this overarching word for the next bit of time that you want to feel. And I love choosing a word for that time because it helps me to sort of vet my decision. So if I like this year in particular, 2024, my word for the year was grounding or rooting, which makes total sense, right? Because I have this new place. I'm settling my life back in. I'm sort of beginning again, completely beginning again, actually. And so when I thought about all the things I wanted to do, right? So I'm like hearing about people going on these great trips and going all over the place. And I'm like, oh, I want to do that too. Because I can very much be like, oh, that sounds fun, kind of a human. But then I kept coming back to my word. I'm like, Tina, your word for this year was to feel grounded and rooted where I was. And I knew that what I really wanted to feel for this year when I look back is that I had made my space my home. And so I vetted that word against a lot of the opportunities that came up. And so then it's interesting when I taught this class a couple weeks ago, 1 week ago, something like that. I guess it was last week. Time is so bizarre. And when I reflected as I taught the class, I just wrote a couple little notes that came to mind as I was teaching and everyone was writing. I realized that I actually was still in more motion this summer than I wanted to ultimately be, because like in September, I haven't been in motion and I started to really button up some house projects I had. I started to really focus on this tiny little garden I have, which I call Squash Mountain. I have not really planted a garden this year. If you've been following, you know that I did do 2 apple trees and a peach tree, which the deer have demolished completely, one of the apple trees. That's super fun. And I also planted berry bushes, raspberries and strawberries. And the deer have also pretty much demolished the strawberries. So obviously my next focus next year needs to be on protection. Maybe that's going to be my word for 2025. I'm not sure. Something. I love the deer and it's sort of fun to see them in the yard, but not anymore. Like they ate all my green beans as well. And I just had a pot of green beans because I don't have a true garden yet, tucked up next to the house, like right under the window. And somehow they demolished them, like mowed them right down, like right when they were ripe, of course, Anyway, I digress again. So over by my bees, because you know that I keep bees, I had this big compost pile from the previous owners of the property. It's where they put all their brush and they put all their soil and all their stuff. Because the property that I bought was completely raw. I had never had a home on it before. So I decided just to throw some squash seeds on it and see what would happen. And it went like gangbusters. Like, this is Squash Mountain. There are so many butternut squash. I'm so excited. My little boy and I adore butternut squash soup. In fact, I just made a butternut squash soup with a friend of mine. And he put, first of all, the butternut squash soup is so simple. And the squash was so fresh and ripe. It was amazing. And then the leftovers the next day, he put some sausage in and some sauteed mushrooms. And it was like my favorite soup I've ever had in my life. It was so delicious. So that's Squash Mountain. I've spent more time in September now sort of rooting into the place, and I realized that while I somewhat hit the mark this summer, I also somewhat missed it. Like, I really was in motion more than I want to be, and you guys know also that I have alien parents. I'm often traveling to pick them up or to go and see them, and they both live 2 and 4 hours respectively away from me. So that takes a lot of time. Not that I would change or get the alternative for that. I would rather spend that time right now than not have that option. So I realize, though, that I've not spent enough time at home. And so reflecting gives me the opportunity to continually make small changes and to continually reconnect to what it is I really want in my life and what it is that I have to say no to. Because we can't live our lives running full tilt towards everything. I mean, we can, but you may never get the feelings that you're hoping for. You may never get the groundedness or the feelings that you're hoping will be in the future, unless you have a little bit of an intention to it. That doesn't mean we're dogmatic, because, I am the first person to balk at anyone telling me how I have to live my life or what I have to do, myself included. So I try to keep it loose, which is why I'm looking for this feeling. I'm not looking to say, okay, you're not allowed to do this, this, and this. It's more like, when an opportunity comes my way, does it fit the kind of feeling I want in the moment? And is that okay? Right? You get to make those choices at any given time. So back to the vibrant life. So you go through and you decide, like, what are your boundaries for the next bit of time? What is it that you want to try to achieve as far as space in your life and ease and all of those things, or excitement and adventure, whatever that might be, and trying to put those into place right at the beginning. So if I know, like I told you earlier, that I want more gatherings in my life, I want more ceremony, I want more community, then I need to find and place those things into my calendar now, because I know that if I don't, life is just going to continue trucking along. And when I'm now at my breaking point and I really need community and I want to be with other like-minded souls, it's going to be harder to make that happen on the fly. Not that it's impossible, because it's not. This is just an opportunity to help set yourself up for success. That doesn't mean that things can't happen organically as it comes either, because it does. But also, organically, we tend to fill up our lives until there's nothing left of what we really want in it. And so part of this Vibrant Life Workbook is helping determine, what is it you really want without it being too complicated? How can we simplify it and focus for the next bit of time on what it is that's really important to you? And then I do something called a joy list. You guys know that I love to, so sort of like I was talking a minute ago with the gatherings, like that would be on my joy list, right? I know that I want to meet with people. I don't want to meet every week. I don't have time for that. That would feel stressful to meet every week. But if I met once a month, that would feel pretty good. If I had one gathering a month, and so you guys heard, I had like 3 different kind of gatherings I wanted to have. So now I'm talking like each of those gatherings would be like an every other month kind of thing, or something in that realm, right? I know what's going to feel good to me and what's going to feel stressful in this particular season of my life. And so I write those down as a list. I also know that I love one-on-one time with my closest friends. And I want that to be probably every week, if not every 2 weeks, depending on how busy I am. But I don't want to put aside having time with friends, which is so valuable to me, for the busyness of my week either, because I won't feel how I want to feel in the end. It won't be the experience I want it to be when I'm done with that. And so I'll write that down. I'll write that I want to meet with a friend once a week. And I also want to walk and I want to get out in nature. So if I can do both of those things at one time, that's perfect, right? It's a little twofer, which is super fun. If I can meet at the beach with a friend while we still have good beach weather, that's a beautiful thing as well. I get to experience the waves and nature, and I get to also be with a friend. So think about the ways that would make you feel more at home with yourself and try to incorporate those into your life. And that's really what this workbook's about, is like getting to know yourself, reflecting on the past, dreaming of the future, and then putting small steps, simple steps. We're not overcomplicating this. Simple steps every day to kind of bring it back to what it is that's important to you. Because I don't know who said it offhand, but how you spend your minutes is how you spend your life. And I, for one, want my life to be full of all the beautiful things I want. And so I'm going to try and incorporate that in any way that I can. And I'm going to reassess my rhythm. Can you guys hear that bird out there? This bird is like either disagreeing with me or is like, yeah, you tell it. Or it's mad that my cat's hanging out in the yard. That could be it too. So I want to be able to have that control that I know that I can have. And let's be honest, that does not mean that like every plan I put into my calendar works out. I bet you not even half of them do. But half of them do, right? So like if I hadn't put them in my calendar at all, none of it would have happened. And so I think it's important to, one, give yourself grace to shift and flow as need be, but also put it out there and commit yourself to the things that are important to you. So you guys know that a morning routine is important to me. I find that if I don't do these movements I've been doing lately and the stretching, I have a lot more pain. And so just incorporating them, I did not feel like doing it this morning, not one little bit. I was tired, I was aching, and I did it. And it took almost until 3/4 of the way through this 20-minute practice I do to be like, oh, this was worth it. Up until those like 15 minutes in, I'm like, this is why am I doing this today? I don't want to do this. And then, whoo, it shifted everything. And so that's what this is about. And also like, yay, September. How fun is this? You know, what's crazy too is that my little piece of property has a ton of deciduous trees. So there's maples, oaks, and also a lot of evergreens. But there's a whole little grove of maples as you first drive in. And they just all of a sudden, out of the blue, turned red and yellow. Not fully. They're not fully there yet, but they're getting there. And I was like, when did that happen? It's amazing. Because it's also been like 87 degrees here, which is unheard of, really. Well, not unheard of, but unlikely in northern Michigan in mid to late September. And honestly, I'm ready to wear my sweaters, okay? So like, that would be all right with me if we got back down to 60s at least. You know what else I'm working on? It's so much fun to work on a project, right? So my little boy turns 9 next Saturday, and I'm working on a party for him, which he's finally allowed me to do sort of the nature birthday party that I've been dreaming of. So I'm trying not to put too much pressure on myself, and he's giving me full reign, which is amazing, to do different nature activities. I think there's going to be a craft when they first arrive there, and then we're going to do like a treasure hunt or a scavenger hunt and some kind of a racing kind of game, and there's a piñata and all that stuff. So that's really exciting. I also have been planning my retreat for October. If you know that I do a sewing retreat on Mackinac Island in October, and we've had a couple of calls with the people that are coming to the retreat, and I'm so excited. This one's going to be so creative and so deep. We are going to draft bodice patterns and then take those patterns and practice new techniques on those patterns, specifically looking at texture. So think pin tucking and smocking and all different things like that. I'm really excited for how this is going to go and the creativity that will be in there. Not to mention the group that's coming. They're so much fun. And then I also have the With These workshops going on right now, and that's been so much fun. It's so fun to see everyone take their original fit and flare dress, is what they started with, and fit it to their bodies, and then start to change it into 3 different designs. And so we're currently on the first design, the gathered neck sleeveless dress, that I absolutely adore. I probably have 4 of them in my closet, which if you've seen my closet, you know that's a lot of real estate in my closet for one style of dress. But it makes me feel how I want to feel, right? Going back to those feelings, like that's really what's important. And when people talk about changing your vibrancy, changing your vibration or changing the channel on your energy to be at the channel that you want to be. It's about putting small steps into your life so that you feel how you want to feel. And so clothing, as you know, has a ton of power to help you to feel how you want to feel or to detract from how you want to feel, depending on what you're wearing. So you know that for me, wearing clothes that make me feel lit up is vitally important. If I'm wearing something frumpy, it's ultimately going to bring my mood down to a kind of a frumpy sort of mood. And that doesn't mean I don't sometimes wear things that are really cozy because I feel like I want to feel cozy, right? That's the right moment for that. But ultimately, this particular dress, back to the dress, makes me feel powerful. It's got a side slit that comes up the leg. And when I walk around in sandals or boots, it sort of flutters behind me in a dramatic sort of way. And it feels sensual and it feels powerful, and not powerful in like, I'm going to take over the world kind of powerful, but powerful in like, I am a human who's comfortable in my skin. That's how it feels. And I love it. So everyone's working on that dress right now, which is super exciting. And then we move on to a princess seam dress with these amazing pockets. And I'm excited for that too. What are you excited about? What are you working on over there? I would love to hear. You can always reach me at kinshiphandwork@gmail.com if you want to reach out. Thanks for listening. I know it was a bit rambling. If you want the workbook that I talk about, you can get that on the website. Go to kinshiphandwork.com and click on podcasts. It's right there on the right-hand side of the screen when you do that. And you can sign up and get the workbook. I also include several podcast episodes that are very related to it. And I think I'm going to do a live workshop related around it, like creating a ceremony, actually filling it out together and having that gathering, but virtual. Maybe it'll be this fall, but certainly in January. If you're hankering for it this fall, let me know. All right, dear ones, if you like this podcast episode, please share it with a friend. You can subscribe to the podcast on any app that you use. I am so grateful you're here. Have just the best day.